Hi, welcome to Mad Scientist Barbecue. I'm Jeremy Yoder, and in this video, we're going to try out a brand new brisket rub. The ingredients that are going to go into this rub, most of them are pretty simple, but some of them you might not have on hand. So we'll go over all the ingredients right now. First, we've got coarse ground black pepper. We've got regular plain old white sugar. We've got granulated onion, dry mustard powder, granulated garlic, ancho chili powder, and finally chipotle powder. One thing you'll notice that isn't in this rub recipe is salt. And here's why. I don't like to put salt in my rub mixes for one big important reason, and that's because I want complete control over exactly how much salt a piece of meat gets. So for instance, my pork rub that I use on pork butts and on pork ribs, well, the ribs, I want them to have lots of seasoning, but I don't want them to get over salted. Whereas a pork butt can take lots of salt in comparison to thin ribs, and you're not going to be able to get the right ratio for both cuts of meat if you have the salt integrated into the rub. What can happen is your pork butts might not get enough salt and your ribs might be too salty. Now, for a brisket, I still want complete control over the salt. And I can add more or less rub and have the exact same saltiness that I want in the meat. And so for that reason, no salt in the rub at all. And another thing is when you buy rubs in the store, a lot of times what they're selling you is really expensive salt. A majority of the rub can be salt, and they're charging you an arm and a leg for a special, super fine, extra awesome rub, but really it's mostly salt and then a few spices you could have in your own spice rack at home. So I'm not including any salt in this rub recipe, and I think that's the smartest way to make your own rubs and find out what you like best and to be most conscientious about how your meat tastes. First of all, I want to say that the basis behind this rub came from AmazingRibs.com, and it's called their Big Bad Beef Rub on their website. I've changed a few things, tweaked it a little bit, but mostly it's the same rub. And so I want to give them credit for putting it out there, and that's where I learned it. And I'll take you through some of the tweaks that I made as we go along. And the first one is our first ingredient, black pepper. So I added a little bit more black pepper than what they call for, just because I really love the taste of black pepper on brisket. And so we're going to go with a full cup of black pepper in a rub mix. Couldn't have gone with much more, I guess. 1 cup black pepper. Next, we're going to use a 1/4 cup of white sugar. Now, the white sugar isn't there so much to provide a sweet flavor, but to provide a crusty bark. A good bark on the outside of a brisket is something you really want when you're cooking a brisket, and it's a really desirable, really tasty part of the cut of meat after you've barbecued it for 12 hours. The crust is the most delectable part of the brisket. So we added that in to make, hopefully, a very nice crust. Our next ingredient is a 1/4 cup of onion powder. And the onion powder is there to add some savoriness, which is something you want to pair well with beef. Pork can take a lot of sweetness, it kind of calls for sweetness, but beef, you want savory in this. That's why so many people use just kosher salt and black pepper on a brisket, and that's what I use almost exclusively, and I think it's delicious. But I want to try something new and see how this works, so a 1/4 cup of granulated onion. Now I've heard that granulated onion is better to use in rubs because it won't cake on so much as onion powder. The same thing goes for garlic powder and granulated garlic. Now, I've never used garlic powder or onion powder in a rub, so I don't know whether it cakes on or not. I've always used the granulated onion and garlic, but it's something to maybe keep in mind when you're not shopping for ingredients for your next rub. Okay, 1/4 cup of onion powder in. Next, we're going to add 3 tablespoons of dry mustard powder. Next, we're going to do 3 tablespoons of granulated garlic. Now, 3 tablespoons of ancho chili powder. Now you can use just regular chili powder. This is here for 2 reasons. Well, number 1 is to provide chili flavor, kind of a robust, kind of earthy flavor to the rub. But Regular chili powder doesn't really have much flavor, or in a lot of rubs you see paprika, which basically has no flavor and exists only for color. And that's the second reason we're using this. Number one, it has a good flavor. Number two, it provides a good color on the meat. And so we're going to add 3 tablespoons of this. Our final ingredient is going to be chipotle powder. And we're using chipotle instead of cayenne because while cayenne does provide a little bit of a kick, I think chipotle has a little bit better flavor. And so we're going to use chipotle powder. And I like things to be really spicy, but I don't want to get it too spicy for everybody else. So I'm going to use 2 tablespoons. If it were just me, I'd probably use 4 or 5 tablespoons to get like a big kick in there. But I know that not everybody likes to have something so hot that their nose runs and their eyes water, but maybe I'm just sick like that, I don't know, but I enjoy that. But 2 tablespoons is all we're going to use for this. 1, 2. Okay, the next step is just to mix all these ingredients together, and then we're going to put them in a shaker bottle, and then you can shake it on your meat and get a nice even coating. So let's mix it together. Yeah, if there are any clumps in here, I'm just going to try and squish them down with a spoon. But hopefully when I put it in the shaker bottle and shake it all up, it'll remove any of those clumps that are in there. Alright, starting to look like it's been mixed together pretty well. So I'm going to start spooning it into this shaker bottle. I'm going to repurpose this black pepper shaker and just use it to hold this beef rub. That's getting a little tedious, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this funnel. You can get it, well, you can get a funnel at basically any grocery store, but this one I actually got from bodybuilding.com. I used it to mix my protein shakes, but it works for this too, so we're going to use it. Alright, I got all this rub in the shaker bottle, so I'm going to take out the funnel. Replace the lid, give it a good shake to make sure it's all mixed up. Alright, looks pretty good. So we've got a good helping of our beef rub right here. And this video is not mainly going to be about the brisket cook, even though we're going to take you along for that, but it's mostly about the final product. So we're going to take this rub, we're going to put it on the brisket, and then I'm mostly curious to see about how it tastes at the end, to see what kind of difference there exists between this rub and the rub I almost always use, half salt, half pepper. And I'm not sure if there's going to be a noticeable difference, if it's going to be a big difference, if I'm going to like it, if I'm going to dislike it, but we'll figure all those out as we go. So I trimmed the brisket just like I always do. If you've seen any of the other brisket videos that I've done, you know exactly how I trim a brisket. And if you want to see how I do it, just refer to one of those videos. So after I trimmed it, I salted it separately. I used kosher salt and looked at how much salt I was putting on there so I could be in complete control of how much salt I put on the brisket. I didn't want to over salt it. And then I took my new rub. After about 20 minutes, the salt had started to absorb into the meat and started to pull out a little bit of the water. And that kind of helped the rub stick. And so I took the new rub, sprinkled it liberally on all sides, and threw it on the cooker. And so it's been several hours now. It's been maybe 4 or 5 hours. It's been just cooking in here. We're going to take a look at it. I'm going to spritz it, and you can see kind of what we've got going on. Also, you'll notice in the smoker are 2 pork butts. So I'm cooking for a group of people, a group of my friends, and so we've got a couple different things in there, and we're going to feed them, and hopefully they really enjoy it. I'm going to be spritzing today with just apple cider vinegar and water. It's my go-to. It's what I really like and what I'm going to keep using. So here we go. All right, it's been about 8.5 hours since I put the brisket on the smoker here. It's been in the stall for a little under 2 hours now, and so I'm going to wrap it in aluminum foil and not butcher paper or anything like that, because I always wrap in aluminum foil, and since I'm testing out a new brisket rub, I don't want to change anything except for a thing I'm trying out, because I don't want any kind of inconsistency to be because of wrapping in butcher paper or something different like that. So I'm gonna wrap it up, put it on the cooker until it reaches 203, and we're gonna pull it off, put it in a cooler, and allow it to rest for an hour and a half, 2 hours, then we'll slice it up and give it a try. All right, it's been 12 hours on this brisket that we're cooking, and the temperature has come up to, in different parts of the brisket I was probing, the temperature I'm looking for is always 203, but more than that, kind of more important I think, is the feel of when the probe goes into the meat. I'm looking for very little resistance, and I'm looking for it to go in easily, slide out easily, not a lot of pressure required. And so in the point section of the brisket, it's getting, really easy, like butter, people will say. But with the flat, it's getting a little too much resistance. So I'll show you what I've done. So in here, even though it's wrapped in foil, what I've done is I put the flat end toward the fire. So it's getting more heat than the point, because the point felt really good and the temperature of the point was about 201 degrees. So really close. The flat, on the other hand, didn't feel so great, and temperature was about 195 degrees. So I want to try and even that out, and I want the tenderness to be there for the whole brisket. And so I'm gonna leave it like this, and I think in maybe 30 minutes, something like that, we can definitely pull it off, and we'll set it in the cooler and let it rest for at least an hour, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours, something like that. And it should be nice and tender, and we'll see how it tastes and how it looks. We'll bring you along for that. All right, so our brisket is ready to slice. We pulled it off the smoker after just under 13 hours of being on there, and we put it in a cooler, let it rest for about an hour and a half, and then we unwrapped it, and sitting on the cutting board ready for us to cut. So we're gonna do a taste test, slice off a couple pieces and see what they taste like. Okay, let's take a look at one of these slices. Looks pretty good. Looks like I've cooked it fairly well. You see a smoke ring there at the bottom. Doesn't fall under its own weight, even though this is a pretty big, thick slice. Let's see if it pulls apart well. Easy, all right. Let's look at one of the thinner slices. Holding together, falls apart when you pull it. Perfect. So I'm pretty happy with how I cooked it. It looks really good. It forms a nice looking bark. It's an attractive bark, I think. It's dark, it's not black, so it doesn't look burned, but a very dark, dark brown. I think it looks really attractive on a brisket. And the ultimate test we want to see is, how does it taste? See if I can tell the difference between this and salt and pepper. Here we go. First taste I get is some of the chili powder, I think. I taste the chili powder because it's definitely a difference. Sometimes I've added garlic or onion to my brisket rub. That's usually just salt and pepper, but never chilies before. I really taste that, really enjoy that, that's good. The chipotles, I'm not getting any sense of heat, but I like really hot stuff, so maybe somebody who doesn't eat hot stuff all the time might taste it more. Let me get another bite here. Getting the heat from the chipotle, definitely taste the onion, garlic in there. I actually really like this. I think in the future I'm gonna start using this rub. Maybe not all the time, but definitely something I want to keep on hand. Even though if you cook a brisket right, all you need is salt and pepper. But this is so good that sometimes when I want to break from that, I think I'm going to use this. This is really, really good seasoning. I taste all those kind of component flavors that we mixed into the rub. Even though some of them were small amounts, like especially the chipotle powder, I do get the tiniest hint of heat as you chew it. It kind of warms the back of your mouth, and it's really, really nice. This is definitely something I'll keep in my arsenal of rubs and seasonings. I'd really encourage you guys to try out this brisket rub recipe, and let me know what you think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, I'd love to hear about it. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for watching Mad Scientist Barbecue, and keep experimenting. Muy caliente.
We don't want to get too spicy.
It's gonna be real spicy. So I trimmed the briskets exactly how we seasoned. Crap, start over. Let's stop and redo. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And what was the other thing? Thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. Crap, what comes next? Don't forget to subscribe if you, I don't remember what, is it filming right now?